What is up guys, my name is Ignas, welcome back to the channel. Last week Morgan Stanley downgraded Micron Technology from overweight to equal weight and cut their target from $105 to $75 per share. The traders on CNBC were asked how they feel about Micron right now, but it seems that they aren't really bullish on the name. These are a few opinions.
I had to exit mine, Scott. I love, of course, patting myself on the back when I'm right, and when we're wrong, I overstayed my welcome in this one, Scott. Had to cut the losses on these calls. They are actively buying puts, which is another reason that I know I'm wrong. They're buying the September 6250 puts today. That was with the stock at almost $70. So they're predicting, or at least protecting, whichever way you'd like to look at it, for another $8 decline out of this stock. That's not one I want to hold on to, Scott. So they've been buying puts the last couple days. Today it started accelerating again, and I said, that's enough for me.
Yeah, and I just looked. I sold it June 29th through July 2nd, so over that period I had sold it. Look, I had bought it as a trade. It's a commodity stock. These are trades. To me, this is Coke and Pepsi, and the bull argument is that, no, there are only 3 players now. They're all rational pricers. So, look, you got to own this thing. It's going to 100. It never gets there. These things always look cheap.
So they have been selling the name and there is not much of a plan on getting back in. Jenny Harrington was the next speaker and she shared that they do not own Micron, but they recently sold out of another memory manufacturer, which is Seagate Technology.
More broadly, Jenny, you still own Intel and you own Applied Materials, and those are the 2 ways you're playing the chip space, and that's it, correct?
That's it. And interestingly, though, we did sell Seagate a few months ago, which is looking like a pretty good, pretty well-timed call. That too, just saying like, hey, that side of memory had gotten a little peaked out, and recognizing that when you do play in the memory space, it's really cyclical.
So the narrative for the memory industry is currently bleak, but I don't feel like it is always necessary to follow on what analysts are predicting. So with that in mind, today for a comparison, we will be looking into a few memory and storage names. These are Micron Technology, ticker symbol MU, Seagate Technology, STX, and Western Digital, ticker WDC. In order to make the comparison possible, we will be looking into 8 different factors: last 4 quarterly earnings results, annual revenue growth, analysts' price targets, forward price to earnings ratio, price to sales ratio, return on equity, current ratio, and dividend yield. The best company under each factor will get a point, so it is possible to have from 0 to 8 points, and in the end, the stock with the most points will be considered the winner of this comparison. I hope that the rules were clear, so let's begin. So the first factor we have are the last 4 quarterly earnings results. As potential investors, we want to find that the company is consistently beating on the analyst's earnings expectations. So if a company beats on earnings for the quarter, we will give it a +1, then for meeting on a quarter it will be a +0.5, and for missing on the analyst's estimates that will be a +0. Then we sum the results up to a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 4, and in the end the stock with the largest sum gets a point for this factor. So these are quarterly earnings for Micron Technology, and Q3 of 2020 beat expectations, Q4 beat, Q1 of 2021 beat expectations, and Q2 beat. So with 4 beats in quarterly earnings, we give it a sum of 4. Quarterly earnings for Seagate Technology, and Q3 of 2020 beat expectations, Q4 beat, Q1 of 2021 beat expectations, and Q2 beat. So with 4 beats in quarterly earnings, we again get a sum of 4. Quarterly earnings for Western Digital, and Q2 of 2020 beat expectations, Q3 beat, Q4 beat expectations, and Q1 of 2021 beat. So with 4 beats in quarterly earnings, we again get a sum of 4. Results for the last 4 quarterly earnings factor are in the table, and since all 3 companies scored a sum of 4, no one is assigned a point for this factor. Next factor will be the annual revenue growth. As potential investors, we want to find that the revenues of a company are on a steady increase. We will take a look into the revenues of the 4 most recent years and compare them one by one. If revenue was on the increase from one year to the next, we will consider it as a +1, and if it was on the decrease, it will be a +0. Then we sum the results up to a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 3, and in the end, the stock with the highest sum gets a point for this factor. So these are revenues for Micron Technology, and going into 2018, there was an increase to $30.39 billion US. Then into 2019, we had a decrease to $23.41 billion, and and into 2020 there was another decrease to $21.43 billion. So with one increase and two decreases in annual revenues, we get a sum of 1. Annual revenues for Seagate, and going into 2019 there was a decrease to $10.39 billion US. Then into 2020 we had an increase to $10.51 billion, and into 2021 there was another increase to $10.68 billion. So with one decrease and two decreases in annual revenues, we get a sum of 2. Annual revenues for Western Digital, and going into 2019 there was a decrease to $16.57 billion US. Then into 2020 we had an increase to $16.74 billion, and going into 2021 there was another increase to $16.92 billion. So with one decrease and two increases in annual revenues, we get a sum of 2. Results for the annual revenue growth factor are in the table, and with sums of 2, both Seagate and Western Digital each gets a point. The third factor are the analysts' price targets. As potential investors, we want to find that the current share price is under the average price target of analysts. And the further it is out to the lower side, the better our potential upside could be. So in the end, the stock with the current price being furthest away from the average analyst target to the lower side gets a point for this factor. For Micron Technology, we have 32 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $75 to the highs of $172 per share. The average is at $115.59, and the current share price is at $70.17. This means that the current price needs to go up for 64.7% to reach the average target of analysts. For Seagate, there are 21 price target of analysts. They range from the lows of $83 to the highs of $135 per share. The average is at $104, and the current share price is at $89.47. So there is still 16.2% room for the current price to reach the average target of analysts. For Western Digital, we have 26 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $70 to the highs of $140 per share. The average is at $93.80, and the current share price is at $61.27. This means that there is around 53.1% room for the current price to reach the average target of analysts. Results for the analysts' price targets factor are in the table, and with most room for growth, Micron Technology gets the first point. The next factor are the forward price-to-earnings ratios. It is calculated by taking the current share price and dividing it by the estimated future earnings per share. That is the standard price-to-earnings calculation, with the difference that earnings here are predicted by analysts. So in the end, the stock with a lower forward price-to-earnings ratio gets a point for this factor. For Micron Technology, the forward price-to-earnings is at 6.17. Forward price-to-earnings for Seagate Technology is at 10.23. And Western Digital has a forward price-to-earnings at 6.04. Forward price-to-earnings ratios are in the table, and with the lowest value, Western Digital gets another point. Fifth factor is the price-to-sales ratio. It is calculated by taking the current share price and dividing it by the trailing 12 months worth of sales. The formula suggests to be looking for a company with a low market cap and a high result in sales. So in the end, the stock with the lowest price-to-sales ratio gets a point for this factor. Micron Technology currently has the price-to-sales at 3.1. Price-to-sales for Seagate is at 1.91, and Western Digital has a price-to-sales at 1.11. Price-to-sales ratios are in the table, and with the lowest value, Western Digital gets one more point. Next factor will be the return on equity. The ratio shows if the company is managed well and if money from shareholders are handled efficiently. So in the end, the stock with the highest return on equity percentage gets a point for this factor. For Micron Technology, the return on equity is at 10.31%. Return on equity for Seagate is at 108.68%. And Western Digital has a return on equity at 8.1%. Return on equity percentages are in the table, and with the highest value, Seagate Technology gets another point. Seventh factor is the current ratio. It is calculated by taking the current assets and dividing them by the current liabilities. As potential investors, we want to find that the company is able to cover its debts with assets, but also that they are actually being leveraged. So in the end, the stock with the highest current ratio under 3 gets a point for this factor. For Micron Technology, the current ratio is at 3.4. Current ratio for for Seagate is at 1.29, and Western Digital has a current ratio at exactly 2. Current ratios are in the table, and with the highest value under 3, Western Digital gets 1 more point. The last factor that we have is the dividend yield. It is calculated by taking the annual dividend per share and dividing it by the share price. A high yield may suggest that profits are being shared with shareholders, and that is a great income source that we as investors are looking for. So in the end, the stock with the highest dividend yield percentage gets a point for this factor. Micron Technology is paying an annual dividend of 10 cents per share, which is a yield of 0.14%. Annual dividend for Seagate Technology is $2.68 per share, which is a yield of 2.97%. And Western Digital is currently not paying any dividends. Dividend yield percentages are in the table, and with the highest value, Seagate gets another point. We can calculate the results, so Micron has 1 point, Seagate 3, and Western Digital 4. This means that with a sum of 4, Western Digital is considered the winner of this comparison. And that was it. If you got value or new ideas, then make sure to push the thumbs up, it helps the channel a lot. Now there's a question for you: are you considering any of the memory names yourself? Share your opinion or picks in a comment below. If you're interested to know exactly when I buy or sell in a stock, then consider the options on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will get access to Discord, where I share my stock trading watchlist and notify exactly when I do any buys and sells. This could be a great option to track my moves closely. Last week we had a stock comparison on a few beverage brewing names with Molson Coors, Boston Beer, and CCU. And we also made an update for our eToro stock trading portfolio. If you are interested in any of these, then click on a video currently on the screen. And that was it from my side. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing y'all in the next one.